got a big battle in front of us, baby. And it's just starting. So let's get funky like a monkey. For 15 years, the American dream has done it with you. Don't fail me now. Lord, don't fail me now.
The Wrestlebros are back.
Yo, what's up, everybody? How you doing? This is Captain Lou, my man Vic Blaze here on the other side of the screen. We're going to be talking about all things pro wrestling, maybe a little something outside of pro wrestling. You never know. Stay tuned. So today, we're going to start with Royal Rumble. No friends, only enemies. 30 enemies. If I had the list of the wrestlers, I would have done it in Vince's voice, but I don't have it in front of me.
I got some more.
Oh boy, here we go. We're gonna play that old Royal Rumble background music, and then we're gonna edit that in, and then we're gonna start, cutting it. It's gonna be awesome.
All right, so I guess we'll jump right into the men's Royal Rumble.
Sure, let's do it.
All right, so far we have Daniel Bryan, Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles, Randy Orton. That's a really strong four, by the way. Otis, Miz, Jey Uso, Cesaro, Jeff Hardy, Sami Zayn, Dolph Ziggler, Nakamura, Big E, John Morrison, Sheamus, Mustafa Ali, Edge, and Elias. So
That's 17 if I counted correctly, right?
18.
18.
And some good names here, some potential winners. Anything can happen. I like that. It's not so obvious, if you ask me.
It's a little up in the air right now.
Because you can easily go with a Daniel Bryan. You can go with an Orton. I don't think they're gonna go with an Orton. You can always go with an Orton. You could go with a Lashley if they wanted to be cool, but I don't think they're gonna do that. Edge is a really, really good choice. Since I think he's out of time, I don't think there's any time to speed up and get to this Randy Orton feud. That might have to wait if they want to use Edge in one of the main events. And Big E's a good one still. It's like been a little bit of a stop and start, but they're starting again, so it looks like they could pull the trigger. I don't know if they did enough. It doesn't feel like they did enough, but it's okay. He can still win it, and it could be a big deal. Who do you got so far? Anybody not on the list?
Well, I mean, there's some names that I think will be. I mean, I'm sure that we'll see Ricochet, we'll see Apollo Crews. We might, we'll see others. I mean, that's, we'll see some other guys there. I'm sure we'll probably see maybe we might see, an Aleister Black. We might see a Damian Priest. Maybe a Jay White making a debut. You never know.
It's possible.
It's within the realm of possibility. If WWE keeps that really close to the vest, they might be able to pull that one off. I know that for weeks I've been saying that Big E, I had Big E winning this match. I'm not going to retract my statement. I'm not going to back away from that, although I'm not as I don't feel as confident about it now. But I'll stick with it because I've been saying it now for like the last month or so. So it would sound silly the week before to back out of it. But seeing that Edge is in this match was, I watched it on Raw and I thought to myself, wow, an outstanding promo in every way, shape, and form. Very phenomenal, fantastic promo. And it almost makes you think, like, as you alluded to, he's kind of running out of time. Like if you're going to do I don't know if putting the title on Edge would, if that's something that would happen at this point. But if you're going to put a world title match with featuring Edge in it as a challenger, this might be the shortest route to get there. So it kind of seems like, you got a great story to tell there with Edge. If you're going to move, if you're going to veer him off to another storyline at WrestleMania versus somebody else, hopefully not named Randy Orton, you'll be, you got a great story to tell there at the Rumble. So Edge comes across as a real, it jumps out as a favorite to me. I know that most things that I'm reading keep pointing to Daniel Bryan as a favorite, and I guess for me, listen, I love Daniel Bryan. I think he's fantastic. It's a matter that I don't necessarily buy that. I don't buy him as being the guy that's going to end up winning the Rumble. Um, like I said, I'm going to hold steady with Big E, although I'm not as confident about it. If I had to take a second person, I might take Edge, because there seems to be a really well built story there. Although I don't think he'll win either. I think it's going to be a matter that whoever he's going to end up wrestling at WrestleMania is going to be the person that's going to toss him out or be involved in getting him tossed out. So, that's a great possibility there. So that's kind of like what I see the Rumble. There's still going to be other slots to fill. You have 18 names, that leaves 12 open slots. So I'm sure that there's going to be several other talents. I think Apollo Crews should be in this match. I'm surprised that I don't see Shelton Benjamin or Cedric Alexander's name in there. I'm surprised MVP's name's not in there. To have all the members of the Hurt Business in this match. So there are going to be some slots available. It's going to be a matter of WWE, massaging the situation to get the best possible outcome for that match that they want.
Yeah, I'm sure. Did I say Keith Lee?
No.
So Keith Lee's not announced. I cannot see him not being in this match. I couldn't see how that would be possible for him not to be on the card at all and not be in the Royal Rumble. That makes no sense. So,
you figure you'd probably Mustafa Ali's in there with Retribution, but you figure you might get at least one more member of Retribution in the match. But you're starting now to crowd out the field a little bit, because we've already rattled off enough names that we might have already gotten to 30 at this point. So there may not be enough room for those guys.
Yeah, I'd imagine there'd be at least one NXT call up. Damian Priest seems more the logical choice. He's the one that was almost brought up already, so clearly they want to bring him up. That'd be a good way to start. He doesn't need to win it. He can have a nice little quick performance, comes in and do something in the first couple of minutes that gets him that makes him look impressive.
I could tell you who's the one guy that he can eliminate immediately and make an impact. Bobby Lashley. Throw him out. We got a built-in program now wrapped around the U.S. title. So it's if you want Priest to come in and make a huge impact, that's going to be one of the guys he's going to toss out. If not the very first guy he tosses out.
Yeah. It's weird because you look at your current champions. You have Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre. Reigns being a heel, that's why Daniel Bryan seems like a good choice. And they have a little history. The story's there, and the match will be lights out. Could Edge and Roman Reigns be a thing? I think that'd be pretty cool, actually, if you ask me. And Edge doesn't need to win. You can make Edge look great from now until Mania, and then at Mania he could lose. I know that they probably really, really want to do Edge and Orton, but I don't see how they could. I really don't see how they could, considering that Orton literally just gave Alexa Bliss an RKO. The Fiend is not even on television yet, and he's the baby face. He has to come get his revenge. I'd imagine, considering that the Fiend has not been seen, maybe he'll return at the Rumble. That means that blow-off happens at Mania. That's what makes the most sense. So Orton's not available for Edge to face at Mania. If you ask me, if they want to do it right.
I don't think that Orton. I don't think Orton should be Edge's opponent. I don't think he should be his dance partner at WrestleMania. In all honesty, they did it last year, and I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the fight that they had. It wasn't a wrestling match; it was a fight. I don't. I think that right now, considering that Edge is coming back from a 6 or 7 month layoff due to injury, and Orton has been, he worked a program against Drew McIntyre. Now he's currently in a program with the Fiend. I don't think that it makes any sense to pivot towards having Orton and Edge, reunite as opponents. I don't think that would probably be a bridge too wide for me to walk across. So I don't foresee that being part of the programming for WWE come WrestleMania. I don't foresee that.
Yeah, so I can definitely see the Edge Roman thing, but if it's McIntyre, then it gets tricky because I'm sure they don't want to pull the trigger on Lashley. It'd be nice to get Lashley Goldberg or Lashley Lesnar at Mania, and let that be Lashley's coming out party. They've done a pretty good job. I think it'd be a nice little opportunity for him.
I mean, realistically, if the WWE, we look at Edge as being a possible, winner, or Big E, as I've been saying. I think another person that sometimes we may not be looking at is actually Brock Lesnar. If the WWE wanted to use that card and bring Lesnar back, the only reason why I would say that is because maybe a Lesnar McIntyre rematch might actually be a good thing because of the fact that Drew McIntyre, again, as fantastic as McIntyre has been as the WWE champion, he never really got that big win in front of some semblance of an audience with Lesnar. And maybe if you wanted to go that route, Lesnar does not need to win the Royal Rumble. He doesn't even need to be a part of it. But I think that might be where the WWE can go with McIntyre, is actually give him the match with Lesnar as a means to give McIntyre his big WrestleMania moment. It's a year too late, but it is, under the circumstances, it is what it is. I actually like the idea of Edge versus Roman Reigns. I think that that's actually a really cool scenario, considering that The Rock versus Roman Reigns is probably not going to be in the cards for this year at WrestleMania. So if you're talking about Edge versus Roman, that might actually be a very intriguing match, and I actually would love to see that, quite frankly.
Yeah, I can see McIntyre, Lesnar, but I'd want Lesnar to win and McIntyre to kind of chase him and beat him at another big show. That's if it was me. I really don't want to see Lesnar lose twice in a row at Mania.
I mean,
normally I would, but just the way it's played out, he hasn't been seen. It'll probably be a big deal on his way back. I think it'd be nice if he gets the win over Drew, and Drew, tells the story again and let Drew beat him. 3 months, 6 months, whatever. Drew could beat him again. Who do you got winning between KO and Roman Reigns?
Well, I mean, with all due respect, that's, as much as I love Kevin Owens because he's done a fantastic job, it's going to be Roman Reigns. I mean, this is a match where, again, we've alluded to this already in previous videos about how this story has been very, very well done. When they did the TLC match, Roman Reigns had to cheat to win. When they did the cage match, Roman Reigns had to cheat to win. So the whole idea is that even though Kevin Owens has not won a match against Roman Reigns, and more than likely is not going to win a match against Roman Reigns, the story's being told well enough to where Kevin Owens looks competitive, and they keep him strong enough to be a believable challenger. I don't believe that Roman Reigns is going to beat him cleanly in the Royal Rumble either. There's going to be some, and I keep thinking that at this point, I don't know whether or not Jimmy Uso is ready to come back. But if he is, then I won't be surprised if then, the bloodline becomes complete to where now you have Roman Reigns and both of the Usos as a unit. Because again, like I said before, KO is going to be ready for Roman. He'll be ready for Jey Uso, and he'll be ready for Heyman. I don't know if he'll be ready to have Jimmy Uso or some other, somebody else interfere on Roman Reigns' behalf. And I got a feeling that if Jimmy Uso is physically ready to go, you're going to see him at the Royal Rumble, and he's going to be part of that match, helping out Roman Reigns beat Kevin Owens.
Yeah. I don't see KO winning. But I hope he looks great. I hope they continue to do things with him because he's always, every Mania he comes out with a KO Mania shirt, and if he doesn't have a match, he can't wear the shirt. So we got to keep the streak alive, brother.
Believe me, a guy like Kevin Owens, the only way that he's not going to be at WrestleMania is if he's physically hurt. If he's ready to go, he's going to be at WrestleMania.
Now, I know he'll be at Mania. I'm just saying,
I'm talking about competing.
It's two nights, so I don't see how he wouldn't get an opportunity.
No, listen, he's been just, and mind you, although Roman Reigns has been, hitting home runs left and right, but Kevin Owens has kept up with him every step of the way. So, Kevin Owens has been and always has been a very consistent performer, even with, the hot and cold positions that he's been given. He's always made the most of it, and he's certainly making the most of this opportunity that he has right now.
Yeah, if they keep that heat that Jey Uso still has on him, maybe he can be an opponent, or maybe a Cesaro who's heating up really, really nicely. And it looks like he's gonna stay a heel, where maybe Shinsuke might transition to babyface. But I see Cesaro, at least every clue shows me that he's probably gonna stay a heel. But they're doing a good job with him. Maybe he can finally get a nice singles match at Mania. Let's see.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I agree. I think that Cesaro, he's well past due.
All right. Then of course McIntyre Goldberg. I mean, they can do the car crash style match, 8-minute, big move, big move, big move, big move. It worked really well for Goldberg Lesnar. I imagine that McIntyre, just his match quality is usually pretty good. He's gonna want to go out there and tear the house down. No one's been able to do it really with Goldberg besides that Lesnar match, as of late. And even, him and Taker were going in that direction, and then it just fell apart. I was liking that Taker match for the first 5 minutes. I was like, oh, we got something good. It was brewing, and then it all fell apart. And I was like, but I think it's there. If he doesn't bash his head in the first 5 seconds when he does the thing, gives himself a concussion, I think he'll be fine. I think Drew is young. He's super strong, super athletic, and he's really, really good. If anyone can make this good without having to use the 8-minute car crash, I think Drew can do it. I think Drew and Roman are the guys that can make that work. With a guy like Goldberg. So that's kind of what I want to see. I always hope to see it, and I never do. So, but I think it's going to happen.
I mean, this match right here, I kind of look at it and in the perspective of, when you say it's an 8-minute car crash, I'm like, I think you're probably you're probably doubling the time limit on this match. This match, and again, I don't expect it to go very long. It kind of stinks for me to say this, but I think it'll probably be 5 minutes or less. And it has nothing to do with Drew McIntyre. It has to do with Goldberg. It has to do with, with his abilities. Can he be extended? We know that Drew McIntyre, with his size, his strength, everything that he has, he can go 20, 30 minutes and he can hang in there and have a fantastic match. But that's not, when you're wrestling against Goldberg, you're just not getting that type of match. It actually would be completely counterproductive to Goldberg to have him go out there and wrestle 20 minutes, even if he can. even if he can go out there, wrestle 20 minutes and still have his win and everything looks good, you know, that's not Goldberg. You know, he's been positioned for, 20 plus years in professional wrestling as being a killer. He just goes in there, smashes people 1, 2, 3, and he goes home. Like he's not working by the hour. Again, this match could go either way. This is a very tricky one because although I believe that Drew McIntyre is going to successfully defend the title, I don't think Goldberg wins, because this is a match that obviously Goldberg has made it about Drew McIntyre disrespecting, the legends, and I'm like, I don't get it. Whoever came up with that idea, I'm like, dude, you're stretching. This is beyond logical, beyond illogical, excuse me. And the fact that I was like, you do realize that Drew McIntyre is like the ultimate baby face that you guys have in your promotion. It's like he's the ultimate baby face. And I'm like, this, to have Goldberg come out and cut that promo and make it about that was silly. But I think that what's going to end up happening is that it'll be a car crash, 5 minutes or less. Drew McIntyre goes over. Goldberg shakes his hand. Goldberg goes away for now. But I think that Goldberg will be around and you'll be seeing him again come WrestleMania, because, he'll have that big match. The only thing is that now with Goldberg, you can now remove him from the championship match and you can move him down to something else where it could be a little more storyline driven. Who will he work against? I have no clue, but you can kind of work him into the mix and not having to put him in a title match, because the title matches, you want them to be longer matches. You want them to be featured, especially when you have Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns as your champions, two guys who can wrestle very long matches, tell fantastic stories. You want to put them in the ring with somebody who can have those matches. And with all due respect, Goldberg's not that guy.
All right. So it looks like they're gonna do the tag team match for the women's tag team match for the titles. Asuka and Charlotte against Shayna and Nia. Did you see Nia almost kill Dana Brooke?
Yeah, thankfully Dana Brooke is okay. Thankfully she's okay, but
I'm like, the slam was fine, except that you slammed her head first.
Well, the whole, I mean, listen.
I was like this.
The whole,
as soon as I see head first, boom, and then back, I was like, oh no.
But when you body slam somebody, that's the reason why the person who's delivering the slam grabs the other person by the head, and you basically tucking, you tuck the head in so that when you slam, the person's chin is to their chest. Bam, they make the flat back bump.
That's kind of why you see these choke slams that are a little bit slow, but it's almost like a straight up and straight down, instead of like a throw, because her legs got higher than the rest of her body. It was slight. It wasn't like this crazy thing. It was like close, but close is all you need to kill somebody.
Listen, we've already bemoaned.
I mean, it is what it is.
We've already bemoaned many times about Nia Jax, and again, I say the same thing with Nia Jax, because for the most part, she worked the match well. Although the segment was really, really bad, because they basically took 3 segments to do 3 different matches. The first one between Charlotte, and this is on Monday Night Raw, with Charlotte Flair and Shayna Baszler, that in itself was a feature match and would have been very good if it would have been a standalone match, and they'd get 2 segments, and then you have Nia Jax run the interference, and then Asuka comes out to help Charlotte. Not have Asuka do this whole segment with Alexa Bliss that just was whatever. It was what it was. But when you have basically a 90-second match between Shayna and Charlotte lead to a disqualification, then it brings out Dana Brooke, Mandy Rose, and then brings out her name escapes me right now, Lacey Evans. You do a 6-woman tag, and then that gets schmozzed up. You start it again. It was.
Well, remember when they had the the no breaks during matches initiative.
Well, that was silly.
But that's what they did again. That's what they did. That I don't know if you caught it. It happened like for 4 different matches.
Well, I think
were restarted.
It was restarted for a reason. I think what ended up happening in the women's match is that Shayna Baszler got legitimately counted out, and I kind of looked at the referee and I was just like, John Cone, like you could slow down the count enough where Shayna could get back in the ring. She was literally, right at the edge of the apron.
Yeah, probably, but they did it.
They didn't do it, so I get it.
They did the restart match. Not just that, they did the somebody comes out, interrupts, and we add people to matches. They did all the tricks that they were doing. I don't know how many months ago, 2-3 months ago, when they
longer. This is closer to a year ago at this point.
Was it a year ago? No, we talked about it here.
No, meaning when they were, we talked about it here, but I'm talking about when WWE was doing the initiative of like, hey, no breaks during matches, blah blah blah. I think that was something
that was a year ago.
It feels like it, because that was something that WWE did.
We were already doing this when they did it.
Yeah, they did it for a couple of years.
We haven't had this for a year.
Well, we're getting there. We're rapidly approaching, but but the thing is there with that particular match, it was not very good. But going back to the tag match, this just kind of feels just as a match that's being put together just for the sake of, with Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, it just kind of seems like they don't have a lot of traction going because WWE's been featuring Shayna Baszler as a single for the last few weeks without Nia Jax at ringside. It just so happened that this week when she was wrestling against Charlotte, Nia Jax was out there. And I kind of thought to myself, I thought that we were transitioning off of this particular team and we were going to move on to something else. But right now, WWE can't do that because they don't have any teams to wrestle against Charlotte and Asuka. They're the only, Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax are really the only female heel tag team, because they tried with Peyton Royce and Lacey Evans, and that apparently is, being ixnayed now because you have Lacey Evans chasing, doing that whole angle with Charlotte and Ric Flair. So I'm not sure, about this match. Obviously the talents are good. The match is going to be fine. I just kind of look at it and says it's unfortunate that for these talents, notwithstanding Nia Jax and what we think of her, but when we look at Shayna Baszler, Charlotte Flair, and Asuka, we look at it and think they really deserve a lot better in terms of having a match that has more heat and more anticipation than what this one apparently feels like it does.
Yeah, because I don't think the match is there for that purpose. I think it's there because Asuka and Charlotte are either going to split or something's going to happen with them to probably get I imagine they're going to try to get the belt off Asuka before WrestleMania. That's not what I want, but I think that's what they're going to do. I think Charlotte will be champion at Mania, and who's going to challenge her? I don't know, but I hope it's Asuka. I hope Asuka is the champion and someone challenges her. But it could be Charlotte as champion with Rhea Ripley maybe challenging her. I don't know if that's what they're going to do, but it's possible. And then you have the other title, Sasha. I can see Sasha carrying the belt until Mania. And then who's her opponent? I don't know. Well, did her and Bayley have the blow off ever?
They have
slowed it down, didn't they?
Well, the thing about it is that they've separated, WWE separated the two of them, which was the right thing to do. The program with Sasha Banks and Carmella is actually doing very well, and with Bayley and Bianca Belair, the segment this week that aired on SmackDown was exactly what I thought it was going to be. It was basically Bianca Belair embarrassing Bayley, which was exactly what I thought it would be. Mm-hmm. The fact that Bayley got the heat immediately, I would have preferred to have Bianca Belair get the heat and embarrass Bayley at that moment, just because they're not they're not scheduled to have a singles match at the Royal Rumble, so I don't think that it was meant to have the heat there. This is a match that I would prefer that if you're going to do it, try to do it on a big show. If not, then let it build some heat over a couple of weeks so that when you put it on SmackDown TV, that is your main event. That's your television main event. You may have Roman Reigns do something earlier in the show, but if you're going to have a quote unquote TV main event, that would be it. But I just thought that they spoiled they spoiled the angle a little bit by having Bayley beat up Bianca, and kind of walk out, kind of getting the last laugh,
I don't think it. I think they can still get to their match and everything will be fine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just didn't think that was the right way to end that particular segment.
Okay, so let's go. By the way, like I said, I think Asuka and Charlotte are gonna break up. Maybe they won't, but I think they will because I think they want to put the belt on Charlotte. I'd rather Asuka be the champ, kind of. It's just, I mean, it depends who's gonna face her. So
it's a weird dynamic only because
I guess the best story is probably Charlotte being champ so that Rhea can come get her revenge. But I don't know if they're thinking that way. I really don't.
No, I got a feeling that right now you're going to see Charlotte Flair and Lacey Evans. They're gonna work that, because this kind of goes back to what I said several videos ago about Lacey Evans, about how I think that she's really good enough that at this point she needs to be featured much, much better than what she had been. I think that this particular angle that they're working with Charlotte Flair is actually designed for that purpose, is to actually elevate her to more of a main event position.
I'm kind of, I'd be okay with that. If they do Lacey Charlotte for no title, and this is the only way that this will work for me. My problem is I'm okay with any type of angle if you know how to get out of it. But having Rick, I was obviously not happy, behave the way he's behaving. I was not happy about it because one, I don't think they can get out of it. They can. Anything is possible. Of course, you can get out of it.
That's a long road to hoe.
It's actually not that hard, I think. But for them, it seems like impossible. I don't see how they can do it. WWE. I know how I would do it. I would probably go a similar route. I don't know if you remember when in TNA when Hogan was I guess a heel authority figure, and he had his match with Sting.
Yep.
And then by the end of the match, whatever, they beat each other's asses, and then Sting's kind of getting jumped, and that's when he kind of calls for Hogan, like, please help me. And all Hogan had to do was help him, and that's it. It solved everything.
Rip up the shirt and go to work,
Yeah. So you can obviously do something like that where Lacey is ODing on Charlotte, and Charlotte just turns to her dad and like dad. And Charlotte's actually good at looking upset and looking like she wants to cry, and obviously Rick is the king of crying. He's not even acting. He's not even acting. So it can be something good. Something good can come out of it. I don't think they can pull it off, but I know it can be done. I hope they find something like that where Rick and Charlotte are back, and Rick finally snaps out of whatever. You can tell a story. He's an old man, and there's this beautiful woman who's in his head. Even though Rick is a playboy who would in real life would probably not be this blown away by any woman, because he's been around the block about 7 million times. But okay, let's just tell the story. He's an old man. He's getting some love, some attention from a young, beautiful woman, and he just can't help himself. But he can snap out of it. When Lacey goes too far, he snaps out of it. He helps Charlotte, and at the end they hug, and it'll be this great, beautiful, emotional moment that will work because Rick is so good at making the rest of the wrestling world cry. So it can obviously work. So I hope they do go that route, and it's not focused around the title, and you find Asuka an opponent, maybe somebody we haven't seen yet. I don't know who. It's tricky because we don't know if there's any surprises. We don't know if there's a Ronda Rousey around the corner. That'd be a good one because I feel she wanted to go away because she wanted to have children. She was in a very she was playing a decent heel character before she left. She would be a big main event, you know, marquee matchup. And she hasn't really had a marquee match with Asuka. She's had like one match with Asuka, and it wasn't that big a deal.
I think the reason why it kind of doesn't, and it has nothing to do with Ronda Rousey, because as soon as Ronda Rousey shows up, she's gonna be the top whatever. She's gonna be top babyface, top heel, and it just has to do with the appeal that she has. Notwithstanding her comments about the wrestling business. The difference
might be in character.
But the difference is that with Asuka, the way that she's been booked very recently, it's kind of schizophrenic booking, because there was a point where WWE was booking Asuka to look very, very strong, during the end of the run with Kairi Sane as the Kabuki Warriors. They were really booking Asuka to look very strong. She won the women's title, and she's looked strong for several months. And it kind of seems now that we're going towards making the run to WrestleMania. It comes across as if the idea becomes is, hey, it doesn't really, I don't want to say that it doesn't matter, because I don't want to be that cavalier about it, but at the same time, it kind of comes across like, with the booking of Alexa Bliss and the match that we got on Raw, it almost seems like the WWE seems more comfortable with wanting to push Alexa Bliss even at the expense of the women's champion, which in my estimation is a no-no, because unless you're going to put the title on Alexa Bliss and you're going to have her become a dominant personality as the champion, it doesn't make any sense to have the match that they had, do all this horror movie nonsense, make Asuka look, she looks scared and bewildered and bumfuzzled. It just wasn't a good look, because as you gear up towards WrestleMania, if there's anything else, you want your champions to look strong. So like that, whenever whoever's chosen opponent, we can then begin to tell the story around those individuals and make the match important for the title. But if you book the champion poorly, if you book Asuka poorly, you can't present Ronda Rousey against her and get that stirring, holy crap. And like, we're going to forget, the last 2 or 3 weeks of TV with Asuka looking silly next to Alexa Bliss, who's literally half the size of Ronda Rousey. I was like, no.
Yeah, Lou, I totally agree with you. Normally, you'd want to do things the right way, but they don't care about that. I'm sorry. They have no problem with making their champions look ridiculous, making them look stupid, but continuing on with their plans. That's why, yes, did they make Asuka look a little silly? Especially, I'm sorry, if you're telling me that Alexa is unstoppable, then show me she's unstoppable. But Orton stopped her quick. She was done. He killed her, so she's not unstoppable. So why sacrifice Asuka then?
Correct.
What was the point? She should have at least dodged the RKO like Noah, or disappeared. She should have disappeared, saw him coming. If she's this mythical, unstoppable creature, and if why hit her with a move and put her down? If she has the same powers as the Fiend, she really can't be kept down, whatever. But I think because the Fiend is in hiding, they're doing what they have to do with Alexa. But I don't think Alexa is the star of the show, right? The Fiend is the star, Alexa is the sidekick, and she's enhancing him and she's making the story interesting. But I don't see them doing that twice at WrestleMania. So I think she will be in his corner. That's going to be her role. I hope that's her role because, I think they're good together. But I don't need to see two of these type of matches, two of these type of characters at Mania.
No,
The
not at
feud is
all.
fine. Leave Alexa in the corner. Go ahead with Asuka, even though you've made her look stupid, but that's never stopped you from continuing the plans anyway. But anyway, since we're talking about this, let's just go into the Women's Rumble. They haven't announced that many people, so we're going to get some surprises, I imagine. They only have 12 people. Nia Jax, Charlotte Flair, Bianca, Bayley, Mandy, Dana, Peyton, Alexa, Shayna, Liv, Ruby, and Tamina. So when I think about the biggest names, unless you're going to do, which this is what I wanted, unless you're going to do Bayley, Sasha, this is probably a good way to get Bayley to that match. They didn't do a blow off. They kind of put exactly what I wanted. They kind of stopped it in its tracks and they kind of played dumb. Carmella came and interrupted and she got in the way, and it's like it never happened.
Nothing to see here, folks.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you look that way. So that's kind of what I wanted. It's, I think, the best women's match on the technical level that you can have. These are really close friends who have torn the house down more than once. I think they can, if they're given enough time, and they will, 2 nights, WrestleMania, they'll go out there, they'll tear the house down, tell a great, great story. I don't know if that's what they're going to do. I think that's what they're going to do. That doesn't mean Bayley wins the match, but I think she's a strong candidate. Then you have the surprises. Rhea Ripley could be a surprise, and she doesn't necessarily have to go after Charlotte. Maybe that ship has sailed. But if you put the bet on Charlotte, she could go after Charlotte. Maybe a Tessa Blanchard this would be a good place to debut her. She hasn't. There's been no mention of her being signed anywhere yet. She's a free agent.
Again,
I know WWE.
We've already spoken about this already.
Yeah, we know everybody wants her, and so this would be a good place to debut her. She's a great heel, way better heel than babyface. And it's better for WWE to let people start off as heels because they don't book babyfaces well. Let the heels come in, let them get over, and then when they're undeniable, then you can flip them babyface.
Right.
So you can have her maybe go against Asuka. You can even have her beat Asuka for the title at Mania, and she's good enough to do it. And the only other person, like I said, was Ronda. So those are my 4: Bayley, Ronda, Tessa, Rhea. I can't see anyone else winning this match. And so who do you got?
I mean, realistically, I know that I also said that with the Women's Royal Rumble, it'd be Rhea Ripley and nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm going to take the same position I did with Big E. I don't feel as confident about it going in, but I'm going to stick with my pick. The thing is with Bayley, Bayley would comes across as like a good candidate to win. I think the issue is that you can tell the story with Bayley and Sasha Banks without Bayley having to win.
She doesn't have to win it. Yeah, she doesn't
have to win the match. I think that realistically, the babyface who does win would probably toss out Bayley in the end. That seems like a right thing to do. Tessa Blanchard would be fantastic. Do I think that Tessa Blanchard would win the match? No. No. I don't think so. Charlotte Flair, no. I don't see her winning either. Because again, if let's just say, for example, Lacey Evans is in the match, even though she's not announced, she'll come in and cost Charlotte the match. Again, it's all building towards that bigger match. And let's just say that Charlotte and Asuka lose the titles because of a Lacey Evans interference, and then Charlotte Flair doesn't win the Royal Rumble in part because of Lacey Evans. It's a perfect storm. You're telling the story easily.
I'd like to see that, but the more we talk about scenarios, the more I think it's going to be Asuka Charlotte. Because if Charlotte wins, right, Then she delays it. She doesn't say it right away. You know, she takes the time, but you can even
all the tension around the
it's
titles. Exactly.
2 nights of WrestleMania. You can easily have them defend on night 1, lose, face each other on night 2, and Charlotte beat her because that's what they're gonna do, of course.
No.
Even though she's a 40-time champ,
Well, but
which is fine. Which is fine. She's good. Of course, she's great. We all know how great she is.
That's the issue, right? The issue that most people take on is, oh well, Charlotte Flair keeps winning the title and all the time, and I'm like, listen, if you honestly look at yourself, and judge it, honestly, you take a look at the WWE women's roster, and it is stacked. They have a lot of really good women workers on that roster. But when you take a look at it, you're not going to find too many people that if you say put this person in the main event of WrestleMania in a women's match, would you buy it? Most people are going to think Charlotte Flair versus either a Becky Lynch or Sasha Banks or a Bayley or somebody else that has been
a big five.
Yeah, like you kind of look at it that way, and listen, does it mean that they need to be the champions all the time? No, but when it comes to these big shows, if the other women, from a perception perspective, have not been elevated to be at that spot, then you're going to get the same people featured. So it's not Charlotte Flair's fault because, when she, if you look at Charlotte Flair, 6 or 7 years ago, you wouldn't book her to main event anything. So, you got to be objective. She's one of the best female wrestlers in the WWE, if not the world. Whether people like it or not, that's irrelevant.
I think people do like her, and they like her matches. They like her when she's a heel, and I think most people get it. It's just, I think it's more like they've failed, like, at pushing some of the other girls, and you expected more from the other girls, and it never happened, and then you're like, ah. But I mean, they can always, like, right now they have opportunities.
They got.
I think they kind of messed it up with Carmella. They put her with Sasha, which I think was literally the worst person because they're so alike. They're so similar.
But I think that's the reason why that matchup works, because when you take a look at somebody like Carmella, although Carmella has improved a lot in the ring, because there was a period where I was like, Carmella's pretty and she's got charisma, but she can't work. Well, she now is. She's still pretty. She's still charismatic, but she's figuring it out. She's able to work. And the thing about it is, when you work with somebody like Sasha Banks, again, Sasha Banks is one of the upper echelon performers in WWE, male or female. Mm-hmm. So, again, I've always said that the litmus test for Carmella is going to be once she gets separated from Sasha Banks, can she do the same thing with somebody who's perceived as being lesser than? Can she be able to help elevate somebody else? Because once Carmella gets knocked off this particular perch, I'm not going to say that she's going to fall all the way back down to the bottom, but she's not. You're gonna want to use her in more of a featured role in that mid card in the women's division, upper mid card. But it's going to probably be her responsibility at that point to help elevate somebody else. And it's whether or not she can do that successfully that's going to be the barometer by which her long-term success as a performer is going to be gauged in the WWE.
Yeah, all right. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot of places they can go. They can push Alexa if they want. They can put the belt on Charlotte if they want. They can go. I don't know if Ronda wants to come back, but if she does, they can go that direction, and that'll be huge. So there's a lot of things. They can move Rhea Ripley up,
which I think they will. I mean, another interesting point, and I don't see this happening. I'm just throwing it out just because it kind of tickles me to do it. But could you imagine if Becky Lynch were to show up to compete?
I was thinking that, they have to have some tricks up because that's a big name, obviously.
I mean, she only gave birth less than 2 months ago, so I have a hard time believing that she would
Yeah,
be.
when I was hoping it was 3 months ago, but it was December 4th. Is the female, the body just doesn't heal in all the right places for what she does,
And
we don't know what kind of damage she took. We don't know if she had a natural birth. We don't know if she had a C-section, but I know you're not. I mean, come on, they don't even let you have sex for a while. They're not gonna let you wrestle. No way.
so that's the point. I mean,
Against doctor's orders. Now, can she show up? Yes. Can she wrestle? I don't think so.
then
But
it then
even
it
if she
serves,
shows her face, it'll be
no purpose. It serves no purpose for her to show her face if she's not wrestling.
exactly.
Serves no
Well,
purpose.
she can show up and she can start something. She can talk some shit to somebody, and that could be her match at Mania. Because I think by Mania, if she wants to, she can probably wrestle at Mania. But I would bring her back the Raw or SmackDown after Mania. That's when I would bring her back, and she can start doing her. You know how good she is at talking junk. She can start talking junk. The man is back. People are gonna go crazy because they're gonna miss her.
Then if you have a heel as the champion, then that person can come out. If you have a heel as the champion.
Speaking of all of this, we forgot to mention Seth Rollins, who's always a candidate to win something like the Rumble. If you ask me, I don't think he is.
I don't think he's gonna be in the Rumble.
I don't think he is, but I think he he's a big name. He's a main eventer, so
I will say this. I think that for the field that the men's Royal Rumble has right now, it actually behooves Seth Rollins to not be in this match. Only because if there with a guy like Rollins, he could be able to come back at another time and be able to get himself over with the microphone and be able to cut promos and begin his program against said opponent, whoever that might be for WrestleMania. I don't think it's necessary for him to be in the Royal Rumble in a match with 29 other guys. And he's kind of in this like weird transition period because he did a super long-term story with Rey Mysterio and his whole family, and now he's kind of transitioned out where everybody knows in real life, hey, he and Becky Lynch just had a baby. That kind of naturally inclines people to want to treat him as a babyface, even though he was a heel on TV. So,
yes, they have an out if they want to make him babyface and to explain his actions, come out and just turn babyface. He absolutely can, and people will be okay with it. He can also flip that and use it against them and stay and remain heel, but use it to become a main event heel instead of a mid-card heel, which he was kind of turning into.
And yeah, I mean, he was doing great work with all those guys in the mid-card. It's just unfortunately what ended up happening was that story went on for long. It passed its expiration date in terms of its story, and it got to the point where the fans had already the story had peaked, and at that point you needed to get to the end and close the chapter, and they didn't do it, and it lingered on until we finally said, all right, we've had enough. We're not interested anymore.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. All right, let's talk about this WWE Network, NBC, Universal, Peacock deal.
My goodness.
This is
the big money hammer has dropped.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I don't know what the real number was for the WWE networks, but I'm hearing between 1.1 and 1.5 or 6 million subscribers we're paying. Who knows what the real number is? But regardless of which one it is, this is a huge increase. What they're getting, 200 million guaranteed
per year
for 5 years. And then when you combine that with their Saudi blood money and I'm kidding. The Fox, well,
yeah.
The Fox money, the Raw money, the SmackDown money, and all the monies, money. They're in a really good spot. They fired all those people. Maybe they can hire some of them back. So, because they're doing, obviously they're going to do really, really well. Come on, they had their best year of all time during a pandemic, which is insane. They probably didn't know that was going to happen. They know it now. They know that now they're going to be able to cut costs because they don't need as many people working at the network. They're still going to use it for overseas, and I believe they have 500,000 overseas subscribers. So that's still a lot of money. So they still get side money for the WWE Network, the little side hustles.
There's coin everywhere.
There's money everywhere. So that's I hope it's good for the wrestlers. I hope they're able to start negotiating and getting bigger deals. I know they kind of put the kibosh on that during the pandemic. I think the information's out there. Money's coming in more than ever before. It's time to pay up, and you have the money, use it. Start doing some exciting stuff. I hope they don't take this as they can relax now and stop working on the product. I hope I know they want to put out a good product. I know it's hard with Vince saying make it the way I want to, but the people who are trying to make the product no one wants to put out something that isn't good.
Of course not.
You work your ass off for it. You want it to be good. So, hopefully they keep making strides, and hopefully a lot of people in that company are stale, and it's been like that for a while. Bring in fresh faces, keep moving them around from brand to brand. You need to see fresh faces. That's the only way, because sometimes when the fans are tired of certain people, there's almost nothing you can do. It has nothing to do with their work. It has nothing to do. You can even start to tell good stories with them. Once they're bland or boring or whatever, and you're sick of them, you need them to go somewhere else for a little bit and do something exciting for you to get behind them again. So, or feature them in a totally different way. Heel turns, face turns, whatever you're gonna do. Switch brands, but bring some excitement, some energy, some moving parts. Use this as momentum. This is good for the fans. That Peacock, you can get it for $4.99, so it's cheaper than the network. That's with ads, but you can get it without ads for the price of the network, and you're gonna get whatever stuff they already have. It's a great deal. It's a better deal than you had before.
I mean, at the end of the day, this comes across as a huge win-win for all the parties involved. Again, for the WWE to be able to get $1 billion over the course of 5 years for essentially selling the WWE Network to NBC Universal for the next 5 years is a huge deal for them. Because, in essence, the WWE has made back every penny that they've ever invested in the WWE Network. They got it all back and then some. For NBC Universal and the Peacock streaming service, again, there's not a single property that NBC has that's going to entice a large number of subscribers to go forth and say, yeah, sure, I'm going to drop, $5 a month or $10 a month to get just the library of NBC network programming. Now that they got the WWE, that is a tremendous brand, and Peacock has now have a guarantee, somewhere between 1 and 1.5 million subscribers, because all the people in the United States that are subscribed to WWE Network are going to get migrated over to Peacock. So it automatically raises that platform's profile immediately. So that's, it's a great starting point, because now, Peacock can probably be able, I don't know if they're going to be able to swing up, next to platforms like Netflix or Hulu or ESPN Plus or Disney Plus. I don't know if they can, punch up to that level at this point, but with the WWE, that's a tremendous boost for that particular platform. And again, I do agree with you. the WWE has $1 billion worth of revenue coming in over the course of 5 years. That needs to trickle down to everybody, from the employees to the wrestlers to the production people. Everyone involved in WWE needs to catch a piece of that action, financially speaking. One of the things that could happen, although it hasn't been announced as part of, but I got a feeling that at some point WWE and Peacock, NBC Universal, they're going to eventually get the opportunity to charge extra for, the big pay-per-views, meaning, things like Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, those shows that have basically been given away for free on the WWE Network now for the better part of the last 6 or 7 years. Now WWE might be able to catch a premium for those shows, which means is that now it's kind of like the equivalent of the streaming pay-per-view business, where they can be able, they're not going to be able to charge $50, like when they were on the traditional pay-per-view model, but that can also be an added revenue for the wrestlers to be able now to get some pay-per-view bonuses, based on, those streaming buys. Because I don't know if the contracts that the wrestlers have had since the WWE Network came about in 2014, whether or not that was baked into their contracts in terms of being able to have those pay-per-view bonuses and those types of checks. So that might be another revenue source for the wrestlers coming up. It may not be in 2021, but maybe coming in 2022 or later, that model can benefit the wrestlers at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's not part of the agreement now. The agreement is to keep everything as is.
Everything is, baked in, but
and it works. I mean, WWE is getting a lot of money for this. So between Raw, SmackDown, and now this network, they're gonna make, look, $56 million a month. That's not including anything else. They got money coming from everywhere.
That's not including the international deals.
Yeah, not including merch, not including.
And let's say presumably this year they're going to get to do WrestleMania in front of a live audience in Raymond James Stadium. And again, even though it's only going to be, 15-20% of the capacity that stadium can hold, but you do it over 2 nights, they're going to bank some coin on WrestleMania, because they're going to make more. They're going to make exponentials more money than they made last year and on any other show, because they couldn't get a gate. So now they can sell gates, if they stay in the state of Florida. I mean, listen, WWE is swimming in the money, Scrooge McDuck style right now. They're all in it at the moment.
Well, yeah, like they definitely need to start negotiating and renegotiating these contracts, because it's possible that they're making, 60, 65, who knows how much money per month. They probably pay all their wrestlers about, maybe, what do you think? You think they waste $100 million on contracts per year?
I think that might be an exaggerated number. I don't think
exactly. That's not good. If
well, think about it, right? Let's say that the top paid guy in WWE. Let's say presumably the top paid guy is Roman Reigns. Let's just say presumably it's him.
Yeah, probably in $5 million, maybe $4 million.
Correct. Let's just say let's say that's $5 million. So let's say the lowest person, right? Let's say the person in NXT who's getting paid to train.
Those guys are in 150,000, 100, maybe 80.
that person's probably earning 50,000, 60,000 a year. Let's just
say
low,
probably, yes, somewhere
in that neighborhood. So when you go from person number 1, Roman Reigns, to like person, let's just say 500, just it's a random number. Let's say person 500 gets paid 50 G's, and then you run the gamut from top to bottom. Do I think it's $100 million worth of salaries? No, I don't. Now, if you include, all the like the staffers, the executives, the trainers, the production people, and all that, then yes, at least $100 million a year on everything.
Yeah, well, that number needs to go up.
Themselves a lot of money. WWE, they're saving themselves a lot of money because they're getting to do everything in the state of Florida. They don't have to, break down and build up all these sets. They went from the WWE Performance Center to the Amway Center in downtown Orlando, and then they went to Tropicana Field in Tampa. That's been their production setup for the better part of a year. WWE has saved themselves tens of millions of dollars in terms of not having to do all the traveling and all the, the travel, the production cost, the rental of buildings, having to pay the unions, having to do all that stuff. They've saved themselves tens of millions, and I think that I'm being conservative when I say that. So in all honesty, and even into 2022, I don't think that WWE is going to get to tour the way that, I don't know if professional wrestling, but let's just say WWE's business, I don't think that they're going to be able to do a live touring operation. At least I don't think in 2021, I don't think that's going to happen. And who knows about 2022? We may be talking into 2023 before we go back to a semblance of, hey, we're doing 200 live shows a year kind of thing, and we're back to business as usual. But, at this point, although WWE is not making money the way from a traditional way in terms of selling tickets and getting people to the live gates, the WWE over, just in the relationship building and all the things that they've done over the course of the last, 2 or 3 decades, this is the ultimate fruition of that. And the fact that they've basically got $4 billion with a B, $4 billion on just US television deals between Raw, SmackDown, you could throw NXT in there, and the WWE Network. And then if you start talking about their international monies, forget about it. You could toss in another billion or two there. So it's, it's incredible financial success for WWE.
Yeah, so they need to figure out how to do that revenue split. The NFL is a bigger show than WWE. It's a bigger spectacle. It's WrestleMania every week. The players get about 47% of the revenue. The NBA it's a huge ordeal, and the players get 51%. Hockey 50%. Baseball 50%. Well, wrestlers are getting less than 10% of the revenue. I'm not saying give them 50%.
I think part of the here's the thing about pro wrestling. The reason, and again, we've already, we've kind of touched on this in previous videos. The biggest thing about pro wrestling is they don't have a union. So
I totally get it, but
and what ends up happening is the thing is about a sports league like the NFL and the NBA and NHL, Major League Baseball, and all these other sports leagues, is that they're seasonal. Meaning, if the NFL was to run 52 weeks a year, I don't know if they would be able to sustain that amped up audience for 52 weeks a year, knowing that they're only on for maybe 20 weeks between, let's say the end of August and, Super Bowl Sunday, late January, early February. And it's really, even though now the NFL is on much more, because before it only used to be Sunday, Monday, now you have the Thursday night games, and now you're having occasional Saturday night games. So the NFL is on TV more than ever, but it's a matter of they're seasonal. The NBA, it's the same thing. It's seasonal, even though the NBA season is much longer, but it's really based on a very small number of teams, even though the NBA is expanding in terms of the talents going to different markets and, having a little more parity in the NBA. NHL is very popular, but I don't know about their popularity in the United States. I'm sure that in Canada, it's the national pastime, but in the United States, I'm not sure how big of a business it is as a television property in the United States. And for Major League Baseball is the ultimate regional game. It's not a national game, meaning, we live in the Northeast. You see me here rocking the New York Mets cap. I really don't care what the St. Louis Cardinals or the San Diego Padres or the Texas Rangers or any other team not in my region are doing. So it's a different animal.
Hey, I get that it's different, but everything you said makes it more so. I mean, WWE has more guaranteed. Most of their money now is guaranteed. Almost all of it is guaranteed. They have all this money. They know they have it. They should know how to split it. That's not the same. I mean, all the TV deals are in place with all these other sports too, and they're making a lot of TV money, and they're probably making more than WWE. But revenue split is a revenue split, right? We're splitting the revenue. It doesn't matter if the revenue is 1 million, 20 million, 50 million, or 1 billion.
But
revenue is revenue.
correct. But the difference is that when you start looking at the way that the revenue gets split up, meaning we'll use the NFL as the example, right? The NFL is the shield, right? The umbrella.
Uh-huh.
And then you have 30 different businesses or 32 different businesses, however many teams are in the league, that they all do their individual businesses. The difference is that the professional wrestlers don't have that same level of saying, you know, me as the brand, right? I have my own individual gimmick, meaning that I have my own stadium or my own whatever that constantly sells out, and I have my own, you know, revenue stream. Basically, this is a collective, and they all, you know, they all work together to build the brand. The thing is that the WWE now, WWE is the brand, not the individual talents. Although if you say, hey, we'll wipe out all the talents in WWE and just bring in a bunch of nobodies, WWE, nobody's going to end up watching it. So there is an understanding that the talents are the most important thing as part of your television product. Now, if the talents want to be able to get that, you know, to get a larger piece of the pie, a couple of things are going to have to happen. One is they're going to have to unionize. In unionization, what's going to end up happening is that there will be more parity in terms of top and bottom. The gap won't be nearly as wide. But what ends up happening is that for the guys who are on top, a guy like Roman Reigns may not be making $5 million. Roman Reigns might end up making half of that.
Yeah, Lou.
Versus a guy who's probably in the bottom of the card, who probably makes 150,000. Well, they'll get 400,000, so they're happy. But the guy on top, who's, you know, the responsible from a position perspective on the card to put butts in the seats, isn't being compensated the same way. So that's kind of where the rubber meets the road.
Not really, because if you think about it, if right now WWE has allocated 9% of their revenue to let's call it player salaries, right? Let's compare it to sports, to player salaries, right? Not any other staff, only talent. Just like this is what every other sport does. I know this is not a sport. However, it operates similar. It's like a team. It's like a franchise. You have all your stars, and then you have everybody else, right, around the stars. Even if you go from 9%, right, let's say the talent right now is getting 9%, and you bump that up to 19%, so 10% more.
That's a huge bump.
It's a huge bump. But let's say everyone gets 10% more. 10% is 10%. You don't have to take away Roman and not give him 10% in order to give somebody else. Everyone can get 10% more, a 10% increase. You get what I'm saying? So when you're dealing with guaranteed money, it's really easy to figure out this math. It's not super complicated, especially when they have all these, you know, these really good business people there. These business people right now, they're all getting richer. It's time for the wrestlers. I'm not saying give them 50% because that's, you know, they've never done that before. So they'll probably go out of business because the way they structured the business. But you can obviously, you know, give them a higher percent of the revenue. It's not even close.
Listen, I'm not arguing the fact that they couldn't be able to give them a higher salary and, you know, compensate them better. I am for that. If the WWE has anywhere from $4 to $5-6 billion coming into the business, that everyone should benefit from this very handsomely in their finances. You know, but at the same time, the way that, and again, I'm not saying that this is right or wrong. I'm just saying that generally, if the WWE, again, for some of these, for the wrestlers, unfortunately, it kind of sucks because again, when you're not unionized, it's not baked into the system. And the way that WWE can look at the wrestlers with very few exceptions, they can basically look at them and say, where else will you go? Where else can you go?
Well, now they can go places. So
No. Listen, can they wrestle in other places? The answer is yes. It has always been yes. But is there any other platform? And just seriously, is there any other platform for these wrestlers to go to that is going to be as big or as viable as the WWE is right now?
not as big, but they can make as much money. And there are people making more money now than there are people losing money because of WWE. Like Lana, who's losing hundreds of thousands of dollars per month.
Well, I mean, listen. All I know is that in a situation like
You
that,
lose $1 million in a year because of them.
well, I mean, listen. In her situation, you know, again, there are unique situations, and she might be one of those people that in the long haul probably makes more money doing Twitch streams and, you know, modeling gigs than she will in professional wrestling. Again, and I say this with all due respect to her, you know, the reason why she has that platform is because of the WWE. Now, if she's able to parlay that and make a career for herself afterwards, being without the WWE exposure, and she can make that a long-term business for her, God bless her. Go for it and do it.
But there's people in the wrestling business not making as much as Lana, but making more than 250,000, which is probably what Lana's making in the WWE. You know, and they're doing it
That's
just
a lot of money.
on
That's a
the
lot of
side of-
money.
It is a lot of money, but not when it's not though, right? For you know,
I mean, listen, when you calculate
you're making
when
6
you're
million a month as a company.
when you're calculating your travel expenses, and let's just say during normal times, if you're making $250,000 a year and you have to calculate your travel, your meals, blah 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 blah, obviously,
No,
you know,
it's still a lot of money. That's not the point here. The point is the
I know
share
the
of
point.
the pie. The
point-
share of the pie is it's not.
Of course not, and it's never. And here's the thing. Unfortunately, like I said, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. Unfortunately, unless the wrestlers unionize, that's not going to
But
change.
it doesn't have to go to that because WWE can go okay. Every other sport, whatever, and anything else that's similar in the way it's constructed, is paying their talent 50%. Before it gets to that, let's go from 9% to 18%. Everyone's gonna make double the money.
Well,
They're gonna look at it as a win. They're gonna all the rest gonna be like, "Hooray!
well,
We made it."
not necessarily. This is what might end up happening. See, because you're saying that you go from 9%. Let's say WWE allocates 9% of their annual revenue towards paying the talent, and you say let's double it up to 18%. What will probably end up happening is that WWE will say, okay, let's just say the 9% is the equivalent of $100 million, just as a rough number, make it nice and pretty. We double it up to 18%. Now we have $200 million a year allocated to pay talent.
Yeah.
That does not mean that the talent salaries will double. It just means that now the way that WWE structures their contracts are going to say that we might pay Roman Reigns $10 million, but the guy that makes $250K, we might bump him up to 400.
Hey, that's fine.
However they want to do it.
They can do it however they want to do it because that's up to each individual.
As long as the talents get
a team. Yeah.
Okay.
Because what you don't want to do is piss off everyone, and then they do try to make a union, and then it becomes a huge headache, a way bigger headache than it needed to be when you could have easily allocated a little bit more money. They're probably already, a lot of them are probably happy with the pay because it's good pay no matter how you cut it.
Well,
When you start hearing these numbers,
and it's great pay, and I'm sorry to cut you off. It's great pay right now because of the fact that for most of these talents, who I'm guessing most of them live in the state of Florida, it's great because of the fact that they're getting paid. I don't want to say exactly the same, but but they're getting paid whatever their contracts were, or at said time before COVID, and they don't have to do traveling. They get to save a lot of money, save miles, all this other stuff. They're not putting as much mileage on their bodies. They're not working nearly as many shows. So when you look at it from the X's and O's perspective, if you look at it for per show capita or per hour capita or whatever, the wrestlers are actually making more money now, even though the dollars and cents are the same, but the miles they're putting on their body is so much less.
No, I totally agree that you shouldn't, if they're not working as much, if the deal is for 100 dates and they're not completing their dates, then obviously because of this pandemic, you have to structure the contract differently. Maybe you do it more based off per date. But that revenue still needs to add up to the proper percentage. What's that percentage that'll make wrestlers not, all it takes is one smart guy or girl to go, how is it possible? If I can figure it out,
I'll figure it out.
if I can figure it out, I'm not that smart. I'm not that smart a person. If I can figure it out, I'm sure there's someone there who went to school for finance and just happens to be a wrestler and goes, whoa, this business model is preposterous. It doesn't make any sense, and it only benefits the people who are already closing in on being billionaires within the company. So
I mean,
you don't want to piss off the wrong person, because all it takes is one big voice, and that one person can convince everyone, So anyway, it's
a huge, it's a huge deal for all parties involved. I think that this is, I don't see any negatives here. It's going to be all positive. I do agree the wrestlers should get a cut of this, and WWE internally should make that decision to say, hey, we went from being let's say we had $1 billion worth of television contracts, altogether. Now we actually have $4 or $5 billion in the United States alone. Now it's like, we can kind of restructure our deals, and considering how WWE has been building these relationships, these are going to be relationships that are going to be long lasting. And I think that those money numbers that are coming in on contracts, I don't want to say that that's going to be the standard or the norm, but I don't think that you're going to be seeing any more WWE contracts that are going to be in the hundreds of millions anymore. It's going to be $1 billion contracts, here on out, because I think that the property as a whole, the way that the television networks are treating it, they're treating it like the NFL, or they're treating it, like the NBA, where they're paying that top dollar for the WWE brand.
And content is king. So if you know what you're getting, and you can put a number to it, and they know exactly what they're getting, it's easier to make that deal, and they know that they'll probably make their money back somehow, some way. It's too much money out here. Too much money out here in the world right now. Everybody's just give me all these streaming services. I'm gonna get them all. And these streaming services are getting between 20 million, 40 million, 80 million, some of them 200 million subscribers. So there's a lot of money out here. So
Yep. And WWE's just made $1 billion.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Easy.
Congratulations.
All right, before we get out of here, did you see the fight on Saturday?
Oh, talking about MMA, Conor McGregor got knocked out by Dustin Poirier. Yes, I did. Yes, I mean, I had Conor winning up until he got knocked out. No. Listen, I am not, and I preface this because I don't want our listeners thinking that I am, I consider myself to be very, very well versed in pro wrestling and being able to have a lot of discussions about wrestling, but I am not in the same league when it comes to mixed martial arts. I'm just not. But I do know who the big stars are in MMA, and I know that Conor McGregor is one of those stars. When I saw Dustin Poirier come into the octagon, there was two immediate thoughts that I had with him. One is that he was Channing Tatum's doppelganger. He looks just like him. I was like, what's Magic Mike doing out there fighting? But number two, when I saw Poirier and I saw the shape that he came in, I thought to myself, I don't think McGregor's winning tonight. I just don't. There was just something about that guy and the way that he came to the ring, into the octagon. I just thought to myself, oh snap! I don't know if Conor can get this guy now. Poirier was very much. He was working on the calf, and Conor didn't really sell it in the first round of that fight. He didn't sell it, and even into the second round. But I think there was one kick where he sold it, and once he started selling it, he couldn't get his vertical base back. And then he got the right hand, the left cross, boom, down he went, and it was a wrap. And that was it was shocking to see it, because I know that even though McGregor has lost in the past, but he's never lost by knockout. He's never been beaten like that before. So that's always shocking, but at the same time, there's a couple of thoughts that circulate through my head. Obviously, I want to know more about, Dustin Poirier. When I saw his record, I was like, this is his 34th professional fight. His record is now 27-6-1. I thought to myself, if he would have had half as many fights in the UFC or in mixed martial arts, if he would have had half as many fights before that one, Dana White would have been probably just, he would have lost his mind, because he's like, I got a brand new star. But this guy's probably got more fights behind him than he does in front of him. So I don't necessarily know if it's the big deal for the UFC to have McGregor get beat like that. But I also thought to myself, have we seen the last of Conor McGregor? Although he said that, in a video, videos that came out, he was talking to Poirier afterwards. He was very gracious in defeat, was McGregor. He was very, very gracious. And he gave the impression that he wants to fight Poirier one more time. If and when that fight happens, win, lose, or draw, I don't think that we're going to see Conor McGregor anymore in the UFC. I think that his days in the octagon are waning. Conor McGregor has all the money that he's probably ever going to need. He doesn't need to get into the octagon and do shoot fighting anymore, although he's a huge draw. But in the UFC, and this kind of happened with Ronda Rousey, you could be a huge draw, but it's a shoot fight. So you can be banked on as to be box office, but if you lose, especially if you're a main event fighter, if you lose consecutive fights in a row, the aura, the mystique, the myth, whatever you want to call it, begins to go away. And I was thinking to myself, I remember when Ronda Rousey lost to Holly Holmes. I believe that's her name, Holly Holmes. And I know that she lost another fight. I forget who she lost. Amanda Nunes. So she lost there. That her mystique in terms of mixed martial arts was finished. Nobody was buying Ronda Rousey anymore as this killer, badass machine that just, breaks her opponent's arms and beats them in 30 seconds. Like, that's just not the mystique anymore. But Ronda Rousey, had outstanding name value, which then transitioned to the WWE. And although Ronda Rousey herself has made some, in the past, rather disrespectful comments about the wrestling business, whether in character or not, it doesn't matter. But she was able to bring her credibility from mixed martial arts, transition it to the WWE, and then be able to bring both audiences together, thus making a huge cash payout for WWE. Part of me thinks that Conor McGregor, would Conor McGregor actually could be the next person to make that transition? Conor McGregor has all the things that Ronda Rousey has, except for one thing. It's really size, because Conor McGregor is not a big dude by pro wrestling standards. He's not a big dude. He's 5'9", and he probably goes about 150 pounds. So,
no, he's not. He probably walks around 185.
I mean, when he fought this last fight, I think he was at 145.
It was at 155 the fight, but UFC fighters do not walk around at what they fight at, and
that's fine. That's fine. I'm only going on the basis of whatever they
he's
got in the ring.
he's smaller than you would want. However, he's not as small as you think.
Okay, I can buy that.
He's not Mayweather. He's bigger than Mayweather.
Okay,
taller. He's thicker, and this is him training to be a MMA guy. So his cardio is through the roof. He can easily pack on 20 pounds if he just cuts out the cardio and starts focusing on weightlifting. So he can look a lot more. He can look a lot more like Daniel Bryan in his prime. Even he's taller than Daniel Bryan, so he can look.
I mean, let me tell you something, man. Daniel Bryan looks fantastic right now.
Daniel Bryan looks great right now, and Daniel Bryan is 30 pounds lighter than his prime. His prime in terms of his physique. So I say Conor can look almost like Daniel Bryan looks, and Daniel Bryan doesn't look bad. He looks good.
He looks fantastic. Are you kidding me? Yeah. I think his physique right now is the best that it's ever looked in the WWE.
He's probably, well, in the WWE, you're probably right. But I've seen his physique when he was in Ring of Honor. He was a thick boy. He probably didn't look as thick because of the people around him. But he's had a bigger physique than he does now. But he's as lean. Daniel's as lean as probably he's ever been. So he clearly works his ass off.
Oh, no, he looks fantastic. I think for me, like when I look at McGregor, I think that my question would be is, would Conor McGregor actually want to consider making a transition of going to the WWE and making a foray into professional wrestling? I think that it would behoove him to at least hear an offer, to at least have a conversation, because I think that if we just had this conversation about WWE, getting $4 billion, $5 billion worth of revenue, just for their programming in the United States, they have more than enough money to lure Conor McGregor in to do a program with somebody, or to be in an attraction that they can use on their big shows a couple of times a year. And he would be, at least I would think, would be a tremendous box office attraction for them. And then if you put him in the right situation, the right in-ring situation, I think that he has, all the possibilities of being able to really be a damn good pro wrestler.
The thing about MMA, when you actually know how to fight, those moves translate really, really well to actual fighting. The problem is he's a striker. See, Ronda is a grappler. So she has throws in her arsenal. She has slams in her arsenal. So that transition, and she's a wrestling fan, so she gets it. She's been around Roddy Piper. She was around Jean LaBelle. So she was always around wrestling, whatever. She kind of gets it. So I don't know if he gets it the same way. Maybe he can. He's a super athlete, so he can probably pick it up, and we can have a situation where he can do it. But I do think he would at least. I think financially he probably wouldn't want to do it. I don't think they would pay him what he would want per appearance. But I think they can pay him one time to do a WrestleMania, because they did it with Mayweather.
That banked a huge coin. And back then in 2008, WWE got a lot of mainstream press, which is what they were looking for. And they got on SportsCenter and they got on all those programs, with Big Show grabbing Mayweather and tossing him out to the floor to all his bodyguards out there. That was a great visual.
So if it's a super high profile or super high earning event, like unfortunately a Saudi show or a WrestleMania, I think if he asks for 45 million, 50 million, which is a crazy number, but
you would pay for
it. They have the money now. I think they would probably consider it.
I mean,
for WrestleMania, Conor asked for 50. If hopefully he's willing to do it for 50 or less, and he's not gonna ask for 150 million, because that's kind of what he made when he fought Mayweather. He made over $100 million. So,
well, I mean, the one thing about it, I mean, listen, I'm sure WWE can work out, the details. It may not be a hard money amount as much as it might be, promotion or, what they call it, percentage points, a portion of the gate or a portion of the pay-per-view buys or streaming buys, whatever.
They don't have that anymore. Everything.
Correct, that's what I'm saying. That if in the future the WWE and Peacock work out some kind of a deal to where, these big events you have to pay a separate fee for, I don't know, because obviously
I don't know that WWE would be able to keep its fan base if they all of a sudden started charging for pay-per-views. I really don't think that the people, those extra bodies that are going to join Peacock, it's still pay-per-view. Pay-per-views are the most watched thing on the network. If it wasn't for the pay-per-views, people probably wouldn't have the network.
Well,
only the super duper diehards, and I don't think there's that many left. I mean, they were down. If they were really down to 1.1 million subscribers, that, how many of them are willing to pay the same price for the network and then buy pay-per-views for $50 a pop?
Well, I don't think
$40 a pop.
I don't think they would charge $50. It'd have to be much, much less. But I understand your point of view to where they'd be like, again, WWE kind of shot themselves in the foot because the whole allure of buying the WWE Network was, you get all the pay-per-views for free. And when you think about it, you're paying $120 a year. Basically, once you see 2 pay-per-view events, it's already paid for itself at that point. So, I get it. I get where you're coming from, and it would be a matter of how do they toe that line. I certainly don't know how that would work itself out, but for a guy like McGregor, I think that it would behoove the WWE to seriously have that conversation with him if there was interest, because I think that a guy like McGregor, and again, you might be right, it might be a one-time thing. I don't think we'll be seeing Conor McGregor as a regular on WWE TV. It'll kind of be something like a Ronda Rousey, to where, if he were to agree to a contract, he might only work a handful of shows a year, if that.
Or you can give him something similar to Brock, but the number would be a lot bigger. So it'd be, gosh, I have no idea what he's willing to fight for. I'm trying to look for what he made on this fight, because the thing with his fights is that he gets his base pay. I don't know how much it is. It might be 10 million now, it might be 20 or 30 million, but he gets a cut of the pay-per-view.
I'm sure he gets a cut of the pay-per-view buy, and he also and the thing is that he also has a promotional deal too, because they spent during that whole event, they spent the entire night
pushing the whiskey,
hawking his whiskey. So
well, WWE can definitely do that for them.
All of those things are part of the deal, and I don't think that it would be beyond WWE's scope to be able to lure him in if he were to be interested in testing the waters of pro wrestling.
Absolutely.
So
anyway, well, I do think he'll make at least one appearance. I mean, more than one appearance, but one match against who, I don't know. But it will be interesting. He's a very talented guy. He's a very charismatic guy. He's very funny. He can talk his ass off. So
he's probably the best promo in MMA, quite frankly.
Might be the best promo.
Yeah.
Point blank, period, right?
He might be the best promo, point blank. Yeah, you might be right about that.
He gets the biggest buy, so it's working.
Hey, listen, all I know is that according to Dana White, this pay-per-view that they did this past weekend was, according to him, the second or third highest drawing pay-per-view buy in the history of the UFC. So
1.6 million in 2021. Conor can do it. He's getting the job done, so he's earning money. So.
And think about it; they were in Abu Dhabi, and they had a crowd there, which even for me, I was a little taken aback by how many people were there, and it just kind of seemed like not many restrictions in terms of separation or mask wearing or anything like that. But if the laws in Abu Dhabi are different, I don't know what they are, and I'm not going to judge them one way or the other.
All right. Well, with that being said, for Captain Lou and myself, it's time to get out of here.
All right, guys. Keep joining the community, man. We've been watching you guys. We've seen our numbers steadily grow every week. You know, seeing new members coming in. We're so grateful and happy to have you guys coming on board. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell the dog, tell everybody to come and listen to our show. We love you. We appreciate you. And hopefully we might be doing a little bonus show later on this week. We won't tell you what it is, but we might be dropping something for you later this week. Look out, be on the lookout for it. Take care, guys. Be good.
Like and subscribe, everyone.